business leader said, I'm not worried about taking care of my customers. I have to take care of those who take care of my customers.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have direct interaction with my customer.
Mm-hmm.
I need to care for those that continuously engage with my customers.
Wow.
And when you lay out the purpose behind it,
Welcome to TYRO TV. I'm Cathy Tijerina.
And I'm Cathy Tijerina. And today we have joining us remotely Colonel David Yebra from Huntsville, Texas. And we are thrilled to have you.
So thank you so much, Colonel, for being with us today. And we don't want to take much of your time because we know you are busy, but we value your time and what you do. And thank you for your service.
I really appreciate it. And thank you for what you do as well. And it's an honor to be with you today. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's start. If you could tell us, Colonel, a little bit about yourself, about your journey and what you do today.
Wow, powerful journey. I'll be very brief, or as brief as I can be. A high school counselor made a significant difference in my life. Took me out of class one day as a high school junior to attend a college fair at the University of Arizona. And at that college fair, I passed by a booth that said the United States Military Academy at West Point. And I picked up a program there, tore out the little card, and began a year-long journey of application and final acceptance into the military academy, and graduated from West Point in 1990 and had the honor of serving this wonderful country for 24 years, and now have the honor of serving the state of Texas as a division director in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. It's quite a journey. And,
it sounds like it. So Colonel, did you serve time in Iraq? I understand that you actually went on tour.
I did. I was in Iraq over 3 tours from 2003 to 2004, 2005 to 2006, and 2007 to 2009.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So I'm sure during your military career, and especially during your employment, your deployment, that you had specific situations that really honed in on the importance of leadership. Can you give us an example of something you learned through your deployment that really taught you the value of leadership?
Cathy, sometimes these stories are a little tough. I learned how to listen. And I use this phrase in the sessions and the engagements that I have, is to be able to listen with your eyes. It was a night where, a difficult night, and I had come off of the command floor, if you will, and a young soldier over my right shoulder asked me if we could talk about West Point. And I didn't even look at him. I just kind of nodded. I said, absolutely. And a few days later, I had a knock on my door that indicated that this individual had taken his life.
Oh, no.
And when I asked who it was, I knew the name, and it was that young soldier that was over my right shoulder. And I didn't give him the courtesy of looking him in the eye. And I believe that if I had turned to look him in the eye, I would have seen what I needed to see. I would have been able to listen with my eyes that to understand he didn't want to talk about West Point. I was the safest person that he could reach out to due to the military structure. Please, it's not a criticism. It's just the way it is. A young private might not want to share what he's feeling with his immediate supervisor. And I learned how to listen, a very difficult lesson, but I learned how to listen. And so now one of the leadership qualities I try to emphasize every time with myself and share with others is to give people the gift of your time, to listen with your eyes.
Wow.
There were other instances and tougher and not tougher, but tough days that really, for right now, Kat, just really gave me a greater perspective and appreciation for what we have every single day, especially our freedom.
Yeah. Wow.
I really appreciate what you said. The gift of time, and that's a powerful, powerful phrase that you coined, listening with your eyes.
Yeah, I love that.
And I think now with where you work now, working with correction officers, working with the leadership and the administration who has to oversee such a organization, you know, that's a living mechanism, Department of Corrections, and in your case, Texas Department of Corrections, that has, you know, trying to empower others to have that sympathy, have that type of energy to where you're not judging or condemning people, but you want to see them become better, not bitter.
Right. Recognizing the powerful needs behind each individual to help them become successful and make the community safer and establish a new line, a new legacy for their families. That was really moving, and thinking about the impact of that in your life, and now that, you know, that change and listening with your eyes, I think, you know, right there even, that's something I'm going to take with me as we leave this interview. So when you, so Ron and I are the co-founders and co-creators of TYRO, which is across the nation, a program. When you first heard about TYRO, what were your first thoughts, and what caused you to maybe want to learn a little bit more?
First is the understanding that we are all doing our very best to give our incarcerated individuals the best possibility for their futures. And so my first exposure to you was in that context, was individuals that were contributing to the effort to give our population a better way of life and to do everything that we could possibly do to help. So my first reaction was how might we be able to contribute to this effort and to be able to help those that might not otherwise receive this type of engagement and opportunity.
You know, one of the things that we do at TYRO, and I really appreciate you, Colonel, because you're empowering others to become better. You're empowering others to reach their dreams and goals, but also not only empower them, but giving them the ability to want that for other people. You know, in TYRO, we teach people that as long as you have breath, your story is not over. And that's something I believe that you've acquired throughout your deployment, throughout your whole career, military and family career, that you have empowered others to dream and to dream big, no matter what the circumstances are, that they can constantly grow and learn.
You know, to go back to your question, Kath, a little bit, if I may.
Sure.
An organization has structure, and it has people in positions of authority. And our correctional officers, our team members, they all fall into a certain structure of authority. But what's unique about leadership, and I have a unique perspective in that I don't have as much experience as my peers do. So I can still see things through a different lens. It's not good or bad, it's just through a different lens. And one of the things you recognize is that leadership doesn't know organization. It doesn't know rank structure. It is about caring about each individual. A good Army leader once told me, said, when you look out at your Army platoon and you no longer see individuals, that's the time to just kind of check yourself and say, these are individuals. And so it's a similar approach with what we share with our team is these are individuals. They were a Mr. or Mrs. before they came to our care. They were a man, they were a sir. And they deserve that level of respect, not only for them, but for yourself. Why sacrifice how you were raised because of where you're at? But the leadership doesn't know, it doesn't stop, and it's not limited by bars, and it's not limited by an organizational chart or a rank structure. If you can lead in any environment, if you can lead in this environment, you can take that skill set anywhere.
Absolutely.
And to show and care for each individual. And it's a discipline not to look out into a group of people and lose sight of each individual's concerns, interests, feelings. And I just learned it the hard way. A reminder to listen to what people have to say. And some of it, and most of it in some cases, might be nonverbal.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great word.
That's great insight. Great insight to have, even from the world you came from to coming into this world of incarceration, and to bring that
transference of that individual care and recognition and seeing people as individuals, which, you know, brings me to my next question. So family engagement is so important because, you know, as you just said, you know, before they came into incarceration, they were a Mr., a Mrs., a mom, a dad, a parent. And so what have you seen? What changes have you seen to the visiting rooms that help support the structure of family and that reintegration?
It's been pretty powerful, actually, especially often referenced, of course, coming out of COVID. So how are we going to sustain that level of engagement? A good Army officer once said, adaptability, not efficiency, should be our core competency.
Ooh, I like
And
that.
I think it's a book from Team of Teams, General McChrystal. And we embodied adaptability. When faced with adversity, we recognize the importance of that level of engagement with virtual visits.
Right.
Now the incorporation of tablets
Yeah.
and the need to be able to sustain a support team. You know, we were all raised by teams. We played sports, we were in clubs with organizations. Why should that not be important now? And we know that that support team, recruiting your team, an important part of that is to be able to communicate with them. And so we adapted in several ways under just incredible conditions that everybody's familiar with now. But at the time, it was a continuous search. Every internal meeting that we were running during this difficult time was about adaptability and how might we resume our level of care. It was always striving to resume the basic level of care, given the conditions that we were facing. It was a daily struggle. I was in on each of those daily meetings, and to see our leadership completely invested in adapting and doing the best we can to resume normalcy under some of the most difficult conditions. But we recognize the importance of that support team and what's needed to resume the life that they want to live.
Yeah. You know, we say here at TYRO, the world of TYRO, success is never a one-man show, right? And that's what I hear you saying. But let me ask you this. How did you get your team, the leaders that you are bringing up, to buy into this new way of thinking of really supporting the individual or the families of the incarcerated to see that they too can have a second chance or a third chance and so forth? How did you win them over?
The thought process, and it's always a daily struggle. It's never like we want them and that's it. Now everything's good.
Right.
It's an evolution of change, and implementing change is just difficult. But I think, and I apologize, sometimes I don't remember where I heard or read it, but this business leader said, you know, I'm not worried about taking care of my customers. I have to take care of those who take care of my customers.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't have direct interaction with my customer. I need to care for those that continuously engage with my customers.
Wow.
And when you lay out the purpose behind it, and there's sometimes, I apologize, there's these quotes that just bounce into my mind that I've read or heard somewhere. But if you don't know why, you're going to have a hard time trying to figure out how.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
And
Yes.
you know that it's important for them to be cared for, just like you would like to be cared for.
Yes.
So we invest a lot of energy in the care of our staff.
Self-care, yes.
So that they can in turn take care of others, whoever it might be, not only the incarcerated, but their families.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And because if they're not well, how do we expect them to be good, good leaders, good people, the people in the community? And so it's a continuous, I won't say struggle, it's more of a journey, Ron. It's never, I want them over. But if you're clear about your purpose, about why you do what you do, that you truly care, that they have a sense of belonging, that they feel safe on where they're at, and that their voice matters. And you establish structures to support those things. And so it's just a continuous journey. It's kind of like the phrasing, lawyers practice the law, doctors practice medicine. We talk about leadership as if we either have it or we don't. It's just
That's right.
it means a heck of a lot of mistakes. And I make a lot of them every day.
Well, what I also hear you saying is you're helping the team that is sent to you under your leadership. You're helping them understand that we are all on this continuous improvement plan. and you're part of that energy that comes to help them find their why, help them find their purpose, right, and help them really achieve their dreams and goals so that they can do that for others. You can't want for somebody something or want for yourself what you don't want for somebody else.
So as people become leaders and as you are pouring into people, what do you think some of the barriers are that people encounter? What are the largest barriers to stop them from really being the leader that they could be, their biggest potential?
People are afraid. There's terminology called psychological safety, for example, and it's a difference between trust and you're assessing your level of personal risk that you're willing to take in that moment. Once you know people over a period of time, of course, trust is developed, but we are always in the moment assessing our level of interpersonal risk and how much we are willing to sacrifice at that moment in time. Some fear is okay. We need a little bit of stress to be at our peak performance, but there comes a point where it can become dysfunctional. And we just learn fear. I don't know when we learned it growing up, but we learned it, and it's limiting. And it's just an understanding that in a leadership position, no matter what you do, 10% of the people you deal with are not going to buy in, and no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And it's just a funny little phrase, but another boss said, David, if you want to make everybody happy, then sell ice cream. But it's a certain freedom, right? The certain freedom says, okay, I'm going to fail, but it takes a lot of strength to say, I might be wrong. That what is it that I've shared with you that might not be right? And given my limited experience in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, it's safe for me to be vulnerable, and that I will never catch up to the wonderful leaders that are part of this organization with their experience. And it's being able to be vulnerable. That's easy to say.
That's right. That's right.
But to say things like, I might be wrong.
Yeah.
What is it that I said that doesn't make sense? And another phrase, I apologize for all these phrases, but
it's good stuff.
I love
a
it.
great leader told me, said, it's only disrespect after the decision is made. And you use terms and phrases that allow your people to be safe and say, it's okay for me to say what I need to say.
Yes.
And that too is a continuous struggle, but you have to do things that modify the structure that allows that to occur. But I would say, Kat, to close on your thought is, we're afraid, but human beings are afraid.
Yeah.
And we're just not willing to. We'll always assess the level of interpersonal risk that we're willing to accept in a meeting. Does anybody have anything?
Yeah.
It's that moment to say what you need to say, and you do your very best to set conditions for people to feel that it's safe to say what they need to say.
Great response.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Colonel. So how can someone measure their levels of success? Do you have a formula that they can implement for themselves as they're on this journey of learning and growing? Is there a measurement device that they can apply to their own personal growth?
I think it's a combination, Ron. It's a combination. There are surveys. We went through a 360-degree survey. And to speak to our culture, we had to share that with others. I shared that with my team, and I also discussed with our leadership, said, here are the things that I need to work on. And to share that with our leadership, not just, okay, you get the 360 feedback, but you keep it 360, and that's hard to do. And so I spoke to our team and said, here are the areas that you have indicated to me that I need to work on. And to my leadership, to our leadership, to say, sir, here are the things that I need to do different, and here that I need to work on. That's the tangible, you can see it in writing. I think it should be complemented by your awareness about how your team interacts with you. And you do need those individuals within your organization that tell you what you need to know. And you have to nurture those relationships.
Yes.
Those handful of individuals that when you need that temperature check, can come in and tell you. And the piece that's missing, and I have to practice at this, is you have to know how to ask the right questions.
Ooh, that's so true.
Man,
If you never ask the question, the answer has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you
that's
have
a
to
good-
listen. And it circles back to that quality of listening that imagine if you could just ask the right questions, the information that you would get.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so true. There are times we walk out of a meeting and it's like, I just feel like there was something that was left there.
Mhm.
But it was like, what could I have asked? How could I have allowed them to be more vulnerable and authentic in that meeting and be able to speak freely? So as you think about specifically Texas and the Department of Corrections there, how do you think, or what's some changes that you think that you could implement or should be implemented in order to reduce recidivism?
Well, we are doing several things. We're not talking about it. We're doing.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
And we are doing several things. I mean, I mentioned a little earlier about the fielding of tablets for our incarcerated individuals that will open their minds to other opportunities to education. There are incredible job opportunities. We host job fairs that have a high success of employment, and we do everything we can to ensure their documentation and everything is ready for that transition. We have programs for some of our female incarcerated individuals that actually interview in civilian clothes
Wow,
as they
that's
prepare
awesome.
for that transition.
Oh,
That's
good.
great.
And so there are ongoing education efforts. We have a school district. We assess their level of education, then we meet them to inspire and lay out a path for their education. And so it's a continuous revisit of the programs that we do. We have entire divisions that are focused on reintegration, rehabilitation,
That's awesome.
training and leader development division, which is the division that I run. So we are organized to support those efforts as well. So yeah, there's always introduction of new ideas. We're always seeking best practices. We're out listening at conferences to what other states are doing and what is it that we might be doing. And so that phrase a little earlier about adaptability,
Yes.
it's what we are doing, continually assessing what we can be doing different and striving and putting these distant aiming points or distant markers out there so that we can keep that recidivism rate down. And we've done pretty good there, but it doesn't mean we're going to stop. It just means
Right. That's right.
continuously reevaluating the work that we're doing. And it's a continuous cycle of analysis and assessment.
So let me ask you this, Colonel. So the word TYRO is a Latin word which means apprentice, novice, someone learning something new, a warrior. And so what we do at TYRO, we're dealing with character development, teaching families, teaching men and women how to really fight for their legacy, something that can outlast them when they're deceased, building something for their family, their community, their state, their nation, that others would be proud of what they did prior to how they got to where their learning process began. So let me ask you, how can TYRO help you scale what you guys are building?
I think the exposure to information and knowledge and how we actually learn. I mean, I will go back to that high school counselor. I wasn't geared to be in the military. My father was a mariachi. My mom worked at night shift at an aircraft company, and there wasn't anything pulling me to the military. If that high school counselor hadn't taken me out of class that day and shared a different experience with me, it would have changed the course of my life. I actually, 22 years later or so, I was asked to be the graduation speaker at my high school, and I went and found her. And I said, I'll do it, but she has to come up on stage with me.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
found that counselor. And I said, all these medals that you see, it's her fault.
Wow.
And it was the exposure to something they might not have otherwise have seen or known. And that's where I think you have a great opportunity to continue to share information and knowledge with those who might not otherwise be exposed to it.
Right.
Yep.
And being able to learn, when do we actually learn? And you have an opportunity to help them learn about different career paths, different opportunities, and to change their perspective with the conditions that they are facing.
That is so true. You know, we see that every day when we're working with the clients and the people that we're called to serve. When we expose them to something 2 blocks from their where they grew up at, and we say, "Look, did you know this was here? It's right down the road from your neighborhood." And they're like, their eyes open up. We never knew. We never left our backyard.
Our 2 blocks.
Radius, and there's so much more out there. And that counselor who took you aside and said, "Let me show you a possibility for you that is accessible, that is doable if you're willing to put the work in." And I think that's key. You, from a young age, from what you learned from your father and your mother, working hard, you know, that's something in the Latino culture that we learn about hard work. And it's always, in our family, it was always respect before love, right? And so we grew up really coming into a place of now knowing, you know, my family and like your family grew up in hard working environment, but now teaching our family and generations what you're doing is showing other generations what's possible outside of your normal existence.
You trigger a thought, if I can, about,
Yes.
you know, so there's opportunities that I do get to share perspectives, primarily with veterans, but I do visit several units, you know, often. And I was talking to a young man who was doing some artist work, and I shared with him a perspective, and he said, "You know, physically you're confined today, physically, but the work that you're doing lets you leave the unit mentally, and where your imagination takes you is not confined to a physical structure." And you can live outside of these walls with the education that you receive, with the knowledge that you all provide them. And so your mind can leave.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it'll all line up with the mental and physical freedom that you're seeking. But nothing confines your mind.
Yeah.
You just have to have those opportunities to be able to see things differently. And that's what you offer, an opportunity to leave and take your mind to other places that's not limited to your physical location. It's a different kind of freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, we have a TYRO declaration that the TYROs recite at the beginning of every class. And one of the sentences in there is, "I am free to dream and believe and create a better world for myself and all those behind me." And you're absolutely right. It does not, it's not constrained by your physical capacity, but instead by your ability to think and dream. So what is the biggest challenge? So as we're getting close to our wrap-up time, so what's the biggest challenge that you're currently facing in Texas? And you know, how are you solutioning around that? What are you working on?
Well, I think it's the same across the country, is hiring people to support our respective organizations. And we're working really hard to paint a picture of the work that we do. It's a very unique opportunity. It's honorable service. But I too didn't understand the magnitude of the service that is provided, that we provide. It's a phrase that I heard a great friend of mine share. He had written a book, and I asked him to inscribe something for this veteran from the Vietnam era. And he wrote inside the book, "Same blood, different mud." It's kind of an interesting parallel, that the service doesn't know what uniform you're wearing. And our correctional officers, our correctional officer staff, they are serving honorably. And it's difficult work. Just like the military's out there on Christmas Eve, so are the correctional officers doing everything they can do to give our inmates the best day that they can possibly have. And that might be just its basic services.
Right.
We work really hard to hire people into service. and what it means to serve other people.
Mm.
And that struggle is not unique to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. You
Right.
see it in the news everywhere.
Yeah.
But we are leading with the why. And if you have a desire to serve other people, to help them live the lives that they want to live, to sacrifice. This is sacrifice.
Yes.
There are
Yeah.
difficult days.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And if you choose, then come serve with us. And so it's always a continuous assessment of our population, the best techniques that we can use to market the wonderful service that our correctional officers provide. And it's a fascinating organization.
Yeah.
I really love what I do.
Yeah.
That is
And it's
awesome.
powerful.
Yeah, I love that phrase, sacrifice to serve. And if you don't mind, I'm going to steal that from you, and I'm going to use that.
So you know what? Also, real quick, Colonel, I know we got to go, but you have really inspired me to really want to talk to correction officers to help them understand you're just not here to lock them up. You're not here. Your presence can change a
Making a
world.
difference.
Making a difference. Just you showing up to work, and you're wearing the uniform, the gray shirt, the white shirt, or whatever that might be, but you have an opportunity to change somebody's future. And that's what I hear you saying, that you've given everybody who comes on board on Texas justice system and the corrections to be that, have that servant mindset attitude.
To become that change agent for someone else in their life. So as we wrap up, we want to give you the opportunity to share anything that you'd like to share, some final words. Most of our audience are those that are incarcerated across the United States. We do have people in other countries, and of course we have their families and professionals on the outside. So if you were going to leave one thing that you want them to not forget, what would that be?
Practice leadership. Inmates can practice leadership. The things you're talking about, servant leaders, service, sacrifice, listening to others, is to practice leadership. Leadership doesn't, if you go back to the earlier phrasing, it doesn't know what you wear.
Yeah.
It doesn't know your conditions. It's about the power of influencing other people based on your values and based on things that you know are the right things to do. And it's an interesting quote that if I might share it with you,
Yes.
it's far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than it is to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much. For they live in the great twilight that knows not victory nor defeat. And you have to know defeat. It's the practice of leadership.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are good days and there are bad days.
Yeah.
And it's the realization that those are the conditions with which life leads you, and to be the best in that particular setting, and to listen to what other people have to say, to give them the gift of your time. It's not exclusive to a correctional officer working with an inmate. It's one human being dealing with another human being.
Yes.
And that's what the struggle will always be. And to know yourself and to be able to listen with your eyes.
Man, you know, this has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that one. Listen with your eyes.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to tell myself that, talking to Cathy here, my wife, I have to listen with my eyes.
Please.
Right? And that is so profound and so true. Even when we're talking with our kids, with anybody in our sphere of influence, listen with your eyes. Because, you know, I want to be looked at when I'm talking. You know, look at me, woman. Right?
Oh, my.
But Colonel, this has been amazing.
Yes.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
We are beyond thankful that you have taken this time out of your very busy schedule to be here today and to be able to share with all of these men and women across the country your insights on leadership and your personal experience that have taught you some really hard but extraordinarily valuable lessons. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank you
those
for your
things with
service.
us. Yes.
A
And,
real
and
pleasure.
Whatever we can do to help you, please reach out. We're hoping to have more communication with you later, but this has been truly a blessing and an honor for us.
Yes.
A real pleasure. And the last phrase I'd like to leave you with is to never have a bad day. I know a lot of individuals that would trade places with you. They just didn't make it home.
yes.
They would do anything to have your bad day.
Mm,
Never
man,
have a bad
that's a good word.
Yeah,
Great
thank you, Colonel.
An
And
honor.
to-
Thank you.
Yeah. To those of you that have joined us today, we want to take time to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here and to hear what we have to say to hopefully inspire you to create a brand new legacy.
So always remember, until next time, that we are rooting for you.